All aboard!
Let's go, everyone!
Come on, everybody!
It's so much fun!
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I am Chris Augenbraun, the co-vice president and programming for the Guild for the next 2 years is my term. And Annette Wallace and I are here today to go over the Pillowcase-palooza. Let's go.
Get everyone excited.
And we are very excited to do it. And it will be taking place after the Guild meeting Saturday, September 23rd, 2023. And now Annette's just going to go over her involvement with the pillowcases and Ryan's Case for Smiles.
I'm Annette Wallace. I've been involved with Case for Smiles for about 8 years, not 10 years now. But I really got involved when in 2015, when my granddaughter was diagnosed with ALL, which is a leukemia. And the pillowcases were a way of me making these pillowcases for the kids. Made hundreds of pillowcases and donated them to hospitals in New York City. And then in January of 2020, I got involved in the pillowcases, making pillowcases with the Brooklyn Quilters Guild. And I took over as chairperson from Robin Engelman. And we made our first delivery in February of 2020, but COVID happened and it was kind of squashed for a bit. But we're back and stronger than ever. We've donated hundreds and hundreds of pillowcases. We have, the Guild members have been so generous with their time and fabric and sewing skills. And we wanted to, now we're having this Pillowcase-palooza, we wanted to give a little demonstration on and try to hook you to making these pillowcases. Are easy. They take maybe a half hour of your time, a yard of fabric, and they're so much fun. And when you see, as I have, what they do for families of children that are terminally ill or have any kind of hospital stay, it's just amazing. And it's a small gesture on our part, but there's such a big response to them. So I hope that you'll get addicted like I am and Chris.
Right.
And let's start.
Okay, so Annette beautifully prepares all these kits. I'll try to see it so you don't have the glare. Sometimes there is a 2-inch strip that is just an accent. Otherwise, you're just going to get the cuff and the body of the pillowcases. This is 27-inch by width of fabric, and this is 9-inch by width of fabric, and then 2-inch by width of fabric. Very easy. But again, that's part of the charm is you don't know what you're going to get. And as you see here, we've got colorful, so you'll have like flashbacks to when your kids were watching Disney shows, and it's really very addicting. Speaking of addictions, whether you like salty or sweet, you are going to love making pillowcases, because just like I love chocolate chip cookies and I love potato chips,
And I like both.
once you make them, you're going to find you want to make more pillowcases. And the goal of the Pillowcase-palooza is to introduce you to the technique, easy peasy, and then to have you take some of these kits, hopefully more than one, and then every month or at your time, how it fits your time frame, you will return them to Annette, and then these are what the finished product looks like. You do not need to pre-wash the fabric. Annette takes care of that, and then they are packaged beautifully. Annette will wash them, and then these are good to go to the hospitals. Methodist, there's a pediatric unit, and then there's also, I think, a unit with
We have, we deliver to Ronald McDonald House, New York Presbyterian, Weill Cornell, New York Presbyterian Methodist. We're looking into doing Sloan, taking over for the Long Island
in Manhattan.
Sloan, yep. And also there's a couple of other hospitals in Brooklyn that Chris's husband works with. And we might, if we get your support and commitment somewhat, we can add on.
Pick up other hospitals
Pick up
and
other
then
hospitals.
make the hospitalization experience a little less traumatic and a little more kid-friendly for the children.
And this is a card that goes in the pillowcase, finished pillowcases. And I made a little sticker that says they're made by Brooklyn Quilters. And I gave our website so they can check us out, and wishing you lots of smiles. And on the other side, not only is Case for Smiles do we deliver pillowcases, but they have a very big support group, and it's copingspace.org. So if you ever need help with anything as far as children and support for families, there's so much information on there that families can find out about through this little package. And now we'll go on to.
So my experience with the pillowcases came about when I was going through my stash and I found these cute cotton knits. So I thought, oh, it's and it was kid-friendly motifs. And I'm like, all right, what am I gonna do? And I had been doing ABC quilts and some quilts for veterans. And I was like, all right, I have enough to make these pillowcases. So I had done the pillowcase technique that we're gonna go over years ago. It's been around for a long time. It's called the burrito method or the hot dog method. There may be other names out there, but it's very easy. And so I made these cotton knit pillowcases and I gave them in at the quilt guild. Annette was not there. And then I got an email from Annette saying, these are great, but we need cotton wovens. So I said, fine, just give them to whoever. I don't want them back. And then I made my personal commitment. I do at least a dozen a month for Annette, taking the kits from her. And then yes, and my own. Well, what I do is, again, with COVID and my fabric addiction, I go through my stash and I find whatever cottons I have and I cut them up, 27-inch by width of fabric, 9-inch by width of fabric. I do not make the trim, the 2-inch width of fabric.
It doesn't really need it.
Oh yeah, here are some beautiful prints. So again, you can just use the cuff and the body. And if you get the kit with the trim, you can add it or you can
not.
omit it. So it's up
Send
to
it
you.
back with the pillowcase. Finished.
So anyway, and then now that I am part of the board of the guild, we're kicking off sort of so you can see what goes on behind the scenes with the people who dedicate themselves to each of these charities. And we're starting September with Annette and the Pillowcase-palooza so that we can get more people involved and have a steady supply of pillowcases provided to Annette to distribute to the kids and their families.
And part of the reason for that is because September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And Case for Smiles, every September, they do Smiles for Miles pillowcase challenge. And during this campaign, we thought, what better way to support that?
You're from Brooklyn, right? Well, from Queens and Long Island,
Yeah,
Staten Island, but
New York.
we want to get represented.
Right. So that was part of the reason that I had picked September. I know it's the first meeting of the year, but what better way to start off the year than to make pillowcases? So.
All right. So now what I'd like to do is go over the construction technique. And Annette, if you can assist me with all the samples that I have. So of course, you're going to need the kit. You'll need some pins, some scissors. This is a tool for turning out corners. You'll need thread. I'm not going to demonstrate on a sewing machine because to me that's very boring. And then you'll need, this is the stiletto end. I don't know if you can see that. And then the other end is our beloved seam ripper. So you will need a seam ripper at some point, like all good sewers. Okay, so we will start. Rotary cutter. Oh yeah, so you'll need a rotary cutter, your board, right, your cutting mat and all that to make it easy, which again, I just assume
everyone should know that by
So
now.
here is 27 by width of fabric. And then here's the 9-inch by width of fabric, okay? So what you will do And I like to do, again, I am addicted to pillowcases, chocolate chip cookies, and potato chips. So what I do is I get my dining room table cleared and then I set up my supplies. You're going to take your 9-inch, thank you, and put it print side up. Then you take your other piece, the body, and this is important. This goes print side down, and you're just going to meet the ends. And then just smooth it out.
Start on your left.
Unless you're
Sometimes it's not. the
unless
same.
you're lefty. So now what I do is you're going to roll this like that. And it's not really very, but you can see here's one end, and then here is the other end where the edges meet. You bring this over.
Making sure not to catch the roll.
Exactly. You want that tucked in tight. And then you're going to pin. I don't have enough pins here, but you would pin as this shows all the way down. And then here, I'll just peel it back so you can see it's done. Oh, right, if you have the clips. So now this is good, ready to go. So what you'll do now is stitch. You can see, but you're going to stitch with your machine all the way down, and you don't want to catch the roll. Okay? 1/4 inch seam, right? 1/4 inch, as we all know and love. Then once you sew it, you're going to do the big reveal. So you're going to go in and then pull out the body of the fabric from this beautiful cuff that you've made. Thank you. So now, what do I have here? Okay, so now here's one where the cuff is sewn. And what the pillowcase technique involves is making a French seam, which all that is a sewing twice. And if you are good at sewing a straight line, you're going to love making pillowcases because that's really all that is required.
Don't you trim it first?
You're going to trim?
You don't trim it first?
Yeah. Oh. Okay, so Annette's saying you can trim it. Go ahead. What would you trim? You're going
I
to
trim the
that?
selvage off.
You trim the selvage off?
I fold it in half, wrong sides together, and then I fold it like that and cut so all the selvage is off. And then you don't do that?
I don't.
So how do you?
I trim it at the end.
Oh, but how do you know where to sew?
It's on a straight line. I know where to go.
From the selvage.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then the markings on my machine, I'll either use a piece of washi tape on my machine bed, and then I know to go there, and that's my straight line.
Okay.
Okay. So
There's two ways.
difference. You
Okay.
can trim. Again, it's wrong sides together, the right side's facing out. That's the technique of French seam. So you're just saving a step there. And then if you fold it, like Annette said, trim your selvages off. Or you can do, as I do, I don't trim the selvages off till after I sew my straight line. I follow a guide on my machine, or sometimes, we all know how fabric is printed, but it's fairly straight and you can get a straight line. So it's up to you. So then after you sew your line, so here's an example where
Okay.
I used a dark thread so you can see. So here is the first step of a French seam. So the dark thread, my straight line down, you're going to sink your needle, turn and pivot, and do the bottom as well. So now the pillowcase is like this. And then the bottom is also all seamed. And I also cut down my stitch length to about 2.5. What stitch length do you use? Whatever the setting is. 3. Okay, so 3 or 2.5, whatever, you know, you'll,
Whatever.
you
The
make it-
smaller actually the stitch, the better for the pillowcase, because they do get washed often.
right. So then here is, again, for me, I trim now. So then I just take it back to my cutting board, or, you know, my cutting mat rather, and use my rotary cutter, my ruler, and I trim off all the selvage. And if anybody is interested in selvages for your selvage quilts, let us know, right?
I didn't even think to say that.
We got them. You want them, we got them. So here is one that's completely trimmed. And again, I'll just go a little closer. So here you want to get, the key to French seams is you want to get as close as like an 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch. Start like with what you feel comfortable, because the next step is where we want it really to be as tiny as possible, or as small as possible, the fabric that is cut away. So then what you do after you sew it with the wrong sides together, here it is, right sides, wrong side. Here I flipped it out, and this is where I like to use my tool. This is actually, I mean, we all have various tools, but you know, you could use chopstick or you know, all your various
Knitting needle.
knitting needle. This is used for paper making bone. Yeah, it's made out of bone, or it is, maybe it's plastic, but yeah, it's a boning tool. And then I go in all along the seam with my tool. I get my corners nice and neat, both corners. I go along the base, I go along the long seam, and then you're ready to do step 2 of the French seam. And that is here, where you go back, it's still right sides together now, and you're going to make the seam. And you're going to go, and I do it by feel, like where I sort of, you know, I don't press it. I smooth it by hand in that previous step, and then I go in, I do a back stitch at the top, go down the long seam, turn and pivot, do the long seam at the base, and I also back stitch here at this end. And then the final one says, ta-da! So it's very simple. You will get into a rhythm. So here is the French seam. It's a technique used in couture. If you sew garments, you may be familiar with it. The seam is encased. So for the kids and the teenagers and the young adults who are in the hospital, they don't have any, there's no rough edges or anything. And then since Annette is going to wash these, I was in the beginning ironing them, because again, you sew, you iron, but now I don't, because I know Annette is just gonna wash them and then press them. So here again, the French seam, and it's all enclosed, you know, the whole way. And that's the easy way of making pillowcases.
And if you didn't want to do a French seam, or you're uncomfortable with it, you can always use a serger or a zigzag. It's just really to contain the raw edge.
Oh, all right.
I've used sergers when I made this, you know, to go
I have a
down.
serger.
I have a serger.
Yeah,
Yeah. It is actually.
Serger's
easier,
even easy
but-
peasy. All right, now with the holidays coming up, oh, that's right. We want to show
We
you some
wanted- yeah.
common errors, or not errors, but just things that can happen. So here I was pulling this one, and how cute is this? Again, I love it when I get Annette's kits. I'm like, ooh, what am I gonna get? So I have this fun camo and blue, and Buzz Lightyear, and whatever the cowboy
Story.
Andy.
Toy Story.
So when I sewed this, I went to pull it out, but then what I discovered is that I hadn't rolled that initial tubing tight enough, and lo and behold, I had caught it here at the beginning. So I'll just go back and take it out. I mean, that's again where your seam ripper comes in handy. But that's a common mistake. And then there's also what can happen is when you turn it, when you do your French seam, you'll get like little whiskers. And that's only because you didn't trim close enough. And with that, you can either just go in and use your scissors and clip those little fibers. It's almost like a little hair or a little, I call it whiskers.
Or turn it back inside out
And then
stitch
just
it again.
wider. The 27-inch and the 9-inch are plenty of fabric to give you a completed pillowcase. It's really a very generous cut that you provide in
The
the kits.
finished product should be, finished pillowcase should be about 20 by 30, right? We said 20 by 30 inches. And it's a standard size pillowcase.
Right, standard, not queen or king. And then you're gonna get so addicted, you're gonna make them for yourself, for your family, for your friends. I wanna show you also what can be done with the directionality of certain prints. This fabric, so here I have the print, oh, I'm sorry, to them. And then, so I cut it that way. And then
Here's the cuff.
here, and I have the cuff at my hand here, but you see the print is running the other way. So it's up to you when you make your own. The kits, just do it the way it's cut for the 27. And yeah, I made this for my niece. She got married this summer. And so it's just, you know, an easy gift. People love them, right? When you make them.
Oh, yeah.
So 100% cotton. If you're going to go shop your stash and use up your fabric, it must be 100% cotton, no glitter, no skulls. I know that's very popular for Dia de los Muertos, and you know, there's a lot of fabric designers that use skulls and kind of ghoulish things, but we don't want that for the kids. And also, if you have any fabric that is just bright and cheery, you know, it's kids that are preteens and teenagers. So it doesn't have to be like the baby motif, which is what I, again, initially found. I was like, oh, these very juvenile prints, like you know, what am I going to do with this? So I made the pillowcases.
Pediatrics goes up to age 21. So they do need, you know, different kind of not juvenile fabric. So if you have anything that you feel would be appropriate, great.
And again, for me, I have so much fabric. I'm like, just use it up, like buy more, right? And then once you make it, you can have your snack and have your treat, because you've made your pillowcases for Annette to donate to the kids here in Brooklyn, or, you know, through the New York metro area, and you deserve a treat. Thank you. So if you have any questions or anything that you need going over, you can look online. Again, the burrito method, the hot dog method.
Or go on
pillowcases.
go on caseforsmiles.org. They have how to make a pillowcase. Also with the I have an instruction pamphlet that goes with the kits. So if you need, I don't give them out anymore because so many people know how to do it. But if you need one, we have plenty of copies for it. And I mean, that's it for this demonstration, but we hope you'll see us on September 23rd.
Yes, please plan to stay.
Stay later. We'll have some sewing machines on hand. If you want to bring your own, that would be great. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions. Our emails are on the website for the Brooklyn Guild.
Great.
Is yours?
Yeah. Yes. All right.
All right. Let's
Thanks,
do this
everybody.
hard.
Get sewing.